What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So hopefully you had a good weekend. Overall, we had some fun here. Did the Game Boy Color video where he talked about being a revision or a next generation system. Also did the full Spawncast, had some fun there, and checked out some new shells, soft touch shells for the Joy-Con controllers for the Switch. Today we have a bunch of stuff to go over because a series is actually returning to Nintendo after being gone for a long time. Technically, you could say since 2001, but before then, even in anything meaningful, it would have been back in 1996, only in Japan. So some interesting stuff there, and it does look like Microsoft is going to be going big at E3, like really big. So we got a bunch of stuff to go over today. As always, guys, enjoy these videos. Make sure to hit the like button, it does help out. And if you want to make sure you see all of our prediction videos are going to be going up, hopefully starting this week, you're going to want to get subscribed with the notifications on because we're going to have some fun. And I'm going to try to get some guests on to do some like Nintendo predictions and stuff. It should be, I think, a pretty good time. So you're going to want to keep up to date and see that. We're going to actually start today with some quick news. We're going to start with Travis Strikes Again. Of course, it released on the Switch earlier this year. I actually did a review on it, and I thought it was okay, and I was hoping it would lead to No More Heroes 3. That was kind of the big thing, right? Was I hope they get enough money from this so we can get No More Heroes 3. Well, actually at MomoCon that took place over the weekend, Suda51 announced that Travis Strikes Again would also be going at this time to Steam and the PlayStation 4. And he does, at least so far, seemingly is teasing at some kind of announcement at E3, and a lot of us are hoping that's No More Heroes 3. And honestly, if they need to keep raising money and everything, and moving it to different platforms would help out, which obviously it would, put it on Steam and PlayStation 4, and yeah, he'll probably get more money from sales. That makes a ton of sense. So I hope it goes well there, and I hope it sells well, and I hope at E3, he's ready to announce No More Heroes 3. Also, do you remember how a while back we had THQ Nordic have this massive thing online where they had their AMA on a site, 8chan, that they shouldn't have technically because it blew up online? People seem to have forgotten about that, but something else people seem to have forgotten, because a lot of people were freaking out about where they were having the AMA, a lot of people missed a list that seemed to have been posted by someone from THQ Nordic, and the list points to, and I'm not kidding, another Darksiders being announced at E3. We just had Darksiders 3, right? Seemingly, it feels like we just had it, but another Darksiders. The list they put out shows, it does show Destroy All Humans, so there's that, and then it also shows Darksiders Genesis. It doesn't show a Time Splitter, so that's kind of a shame that maybe it's just not, they don't have one ready or something, but Darksiders Genesis is interesting. I'm not sure what that is. It's weird to think that they would have some big new Darksiders ready. Maybe it's a smaller project, but yeah, more Darksiders. Interesting. I mean, we already know about Biomutant, and I hope that turns out well because at least it looks interesting, and Destroy All Humans sounds really cool, but Darksiders Genesis? Okay, let's see what they have. And just in case you were still confused about Death Stranding, like, you know, all of us are, well, Hideo Kojima decided to try to make it a little clearer for us and posted a teaser that still makes no sense. I don't know what's happening here, as you're seeing. I really don't. It shows a hand, and then it talks about create the rope, and that's kind of it. He just posted on Twitter. I like to think that this means we're getting closer to some kind of Death Stranding information, you know, like a gameplay session or more information about the plot or a release date or something. I like to think the teasing that we keep seeing is leading up to that soon, because I still think one of Sony's games is going to have to launch this holiday. I think it's either Death Stranding, Ghost of Tsushima, or Last of Us Part 2. I feel like it might be Death Stranding, to be honest. That might be the one that's ready to go, and they could announce it leading up to PlayStation Experience, just saying it's a 2019 game, and then giving us the date there. But yeah, Kojima's been fairly active on Twitter, seemingly getting different trailers and stuff ready, so you never know. Something could just drop online, a press release, and boom, we're off and running to a 2019 release for Death Stranding. Also, if you're someone who likes to pick up FIFA every year, I don't get it, but hey, FIFA 2020 does appear to be coming to the Switch. Not really a surprise. That's the one sports game that EA seems to bring pretty much to the Switch every year. No Madden or NHL or anything like the NBA Live. It seems to just be pretty much FIFA every single year. It was spotted on Amazon UK, so it seems to be business as usual. If you're someone who likes to pick up FIFA on the Switch, you can look forward to FIFA 20. I assume we'll get a release date at E3, most likely in the fall, obviously September or so, October, somewhere in there, and you'll be able to pick it up then. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. We talked previously about a series that is returning to Nintendo after what feels like forever, and that's because it technically never came out on a Nintendo platform outside of Japan. it's Star Ocean. Star Ocean, of course, was just called Star Ocean. It was on the Super Famicom. It released in Japan, never made its way west until it released as a remake on the PSP called First Departure R. And then since then, not much has really happened with that series other than put out mediocre at best games that we've had recently that haven't been very good. There was a Game Boy game back in 2001, a Game Boy Color game for Star Ocean, but it was really part of the main series or anything, so people don't really count that. So technically, it's been a long time. 1996 since like one of their mainline Star Ocean games has been on a Nintendo platform. Well, it's been announced now that Star Ocean First Departure R is going to be getting a remaster. So it's going to be a remaster of a remake of a game that was on the PSP that was originally on the Super Famicom and is now coming to the PlayStation 4 and the Switch. And yes, it is coming west as well. They have confirmed that, and they have a full English website up and everything. It looks good. They put out this tweet, and then they also put up the website, and this is very, very exciting. Now, I actually have the Super Nintendo cartridge of the game, even though it wasn't actually released. You can get repros made of it. I've actually made it, and it's a big game. On the Super Nintendo, it was very, very large. It took up quite a bit of space. They needed a special compression chip inside. If you decompress it, it's like, I think it's like 12 gigabytes or 12 megabytes, sorry, 12 megabytes or something. So it is a larger game from the Super Famicom days, and it's an RPG that a lot of people really, really liked. I think it's probably better than some of the newer Star Oceans, but honestly, the newest one that came out really wasn't that good at all. So I guess it's not too hard to do. But the exciting thing here is, if this one comes out and does well, I could see Second Story's remake that took place and is on the PSP also coming over, and then maybe Star Ocean just gets a bit more momentum and they come out with a better Star Ocean game than what we've had recently. One thing's for sure. Do you know how we've talked about how the Switch has been doing well in Japan, and we said, hey, it'll probably get a bunch of Japanese support? This is the support that I've been referring to. You're going to see games and series come back to Nintendo that really haven't been there in a long time, specifically ones out of Japan. Now that it's past the PlayStation 4 and is beyond 8 million units, and it'll probably continue rolling along to most likely by the end of the year over 10 million units in Japan, which sounds crazy, but mainline Pokemon, Zelda, Animal Crossing, you kind of get the picture. It will pretty much blow up as we get towards Christmas time. So you're going to see more stories like these, I believe, right? We've already talked about how there's Langrisser, there's Grandia, there's a lot of games from before that are coming back and also going to Nintendo's platform. So hey, interesting stuff, exciting stuff. If you never played the Star Ocean, it's going to be worth picking up, and hopefully we got a full physical copy we can pick up. It's exciting stuff for collectors and fans of JRPGs. Next up, let's talk about Microsoft's presence at E3. Look, there's not a Sony presentation, right? There will be a Nintendo Direct. It'll be pre-recorded, and then, of course, they'll have games on the showroom floor for people to go up and play. But Microsoft is going to have a full live presentation. It's something that even EA has backed down from. They don't even want to do a live presentation, it seems. So I guess this is it. We just have Microsoft's live presentation being the big one, although I'm sure, Devolver Digital or whoever will do one as well, and theirs is pretty funny. But Microsoft is going to do, according to them, this is from Xbox Brazil, who actually put out the schedule, 2 hours. This thing is going to be 2 hours long according to their schedule they put up, and that is something else because that is 20 minutes longer than last year's, which had a lot of reveals and a lot of games, and I believe that's 30 minutes longer than the 2016 presentation, which was also kind of lengthy. I mean, the thing here was last year's felt like it went quick because it was release after release. It was a lot of games that they showed. It was just game after game after game. This year, though, 2 hours. There's a lot of stuff that they have to go over. Most likely we'll hear or even see some of their next generation boxes for Xbox Scarlet because, well, apparently they're going to be releasing 2020, so they'll want to at least show us the box now and then show us a big blowout probably next E3. And then they'll also be talking about games from Ninja Theory. There's Gears 5, Halo Infinite will probably get full gameplay, we assume, and then maybe at least a year slapped on it, and then a ton of releases from their newer studios. Like I said, Ninja Theory. And there's also rumors going around about A Perfect Dark, the possibility of a new Fable reboot, a lot of stuff, Battletoads, and then there's things that we don't know about. 2 hours is a long time to fill, I will admit. But then they're also probably talking about xCloud. there's a lot of stuff that they need to go over. So to hear about a 2-hour window for them to do this presentation makes me feel a bit better because, one, it makes me feel like we are going to get a lot of really cool stuff, right? Next generation stuff, a bunch of games, possibly some Nintendo crossover like we've been hearing rumors about as well. So to hear about that 2-hour block does make me feel better about the possibility of some of these reveals and different things that are going around right now, because there's certainly enough time. They don't have to rush through it, which is great. Think about it this way. If you hear about a Nintendo Direct coming up, and they're like, oh, join us for 15 minutes, right? And it's a full Nintendo Direct. You might go, well, that's not a lot of time at all. We say the same things kind of with State of Play. Although last State of Play was pretty cool because of Final Fantasy VII Remake. You get the idea, though. A longer time, a lot of times makes us feel like we're going to get more out of it. So it's at least exciting to hear about it. And guys, we are less than, and I'm not kidding, 2 weeks from E3, right? Next, not this Sunday coming up, the following Sunday, we'll be on stream and we'll be seeing what Microsoft has for us this year. Next up, let's talk a little bit about some retro news. Now, if you were a fan of the Nintendo 64 back in the day, you may have played a little game called Conker's Bad Fur Day. It was also, of course, put on the original Xbox, which is backwards compatible with the Xbox One. It was kind of like a remake of it, but a lot of people really remember, very fondly, by the way, Conker's Bad Fur Day. Well, Chris Seaver actually put some information out about the sequel. They actually had a planned sequel, and it was canceled after Rare changed hands. Of course, we had Nintendo and Microsoft, and Nintendo basically shipped Rare off to Microsoft for, I think $250 million or something. But it was canceled at that time, which really hurts, I'll admit, because that would have been really cool to see this. But there's a full post out on Twitter, and I recommend you go check it out. It's actually linked below because there is a lot of information. They had a really cool idea. They were basically going to kill off Conker in the game. You would actually go below a basement of a nightclub and you would actually fight against death, and they had a really cool little hook in there as they described, where the credits would roll after a certain amount of time, or you get to a certain point in the game, but then Conker would realize the game isn't actually over yet. A little bit of fourth wall breaking there. The credits would be cut basically because Conker still had some stuff to do. So it does sound like, if you read through it, they had some really cool ideas, and it is a shame to see it get cut, obviously. To hear about it now is like, man, we could have really had another Conker's Bad Fur Day, because all we have right now is Super Lucky's Tale. And our last bit of news, let's talk about a game that seemingly has been leaked ahead of Ubisoft's own presentation at E3. Ubisoft, of course, I guess will do their own live presentation. Theirs kind of drags a bit more, but we do expect at least a new Watch Dogs, maybe a new Splinter Cell, we'll see, maybe some updates on Beyond Good and Evil, we'll see about that as well. But it does look like they were at least coming to the table with something other than Just Dance as like a weird game. This is an interesting one. This was leaked online, and I don't really know what to make of it because we haven't really seen actual gameplay. We've seen some flyby shots of the arenas, but it appears to almost be like a roller derby style game. Here's the logo, actually. You can see nice big bright right there that they put out. It's Roller Champions, and there are some screenshots, kind of. There's a full control layout. There is some gameplay, kind of, just flyover shots of the arenas, and it seems to be described as like a team-based roller derby style game. I'm not really sure why. It is out of left field. It could be neat, right? But I haven't seen much about it outside of this leak. It's something to look forward to, but it seems like it's just Ubisoft getting creative. It could be cool. It could be like one of their live service style games, right? Like a Rocket League, kind of what they're trying to chase there. And I mean, think about it this way. When we talked about Rocket League, we talked about RC cars hitting basically a soccer ball through goals. That didn't sound very clever. If you just say it like that, you're like, oh, okay. But then you play it and it's amazing. So I at least will give this game a chance. It's a leak. They haven't even had a chance to show it on their terms yet. So it's at least creative enough to have me interested. So it's one other thing to look forward to Ubisoft that's not like, The Division or like Ghost Recon or something. It is something way out in left field compared to what they usually do. And we'll finish up today with the comment from Friday. As you're seeing here, this one's for Tequila Purr, saying, yeah, sure, consoles are sort of niche, but is that something really you tell your investors? Doesn't make you seem that confident in your own brand. So this is actually exactly, as I would see anyway, what you would tell your investors. It's not something you would tell them at E3. You wouldn't go on your E3 stage and say, hey, Everyone out there owns consoles. You're part of the niche market. You wouldn't tell them that, but the investors that want you to continue growing and finding new avenues of revenue and all kinds of ways to keep growing, you would tell them that what you're currently working in is niche, and there's a whole massive world out there for you to pull money from. And that's kind of what they're trying to explain to investors as to why they are doing this kind of signed little, penciled in agreement with Microsoft, is to explore the possibilities of streaming and reaching, 1 billion people rather than 100 million. That's kind of what they're trying to explain to them. They're trying to show them the big picture. So in order to do that, they call their current success a niche market. So that way that the investors go, wait a minute, if you're making all this money from a niche market, how much money can you make from like the big mass market? That's kind of what they're trying to do. So I at least understand why that language is chosen. And it wouldn't go over well at E3, but it definitely, I think, goes over better in like an investors meeting there. So that's kind of why I think they did that. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it is Star Ocean returning to a Nintendo platform since technically 1996. Again, 2001 Game Boy Color game, not really part of the main line, but everyone goes back to 1996. What do you think about that? Because that's technically the first time it's been released outside of Japan, a game since 1996 on a Nintendo platform that's been there ever since, outside of being on the PSP. Also, let me think about Microsoft's big E3 presentation and what you think we might see there. And then, of course, the disappointment of there not being a Conker's Bad Fur Day sequel, despite there being one in planning. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.